So then guys, Apple have just announced the brand new iPhone 16e, the replacement for say the iPhone SE and also the iPhone 14. But one thing that came alongside with the iPhone 16e was the $599 price tag. And that's got a lot of us wondering, is it worth buying yourself an iPhone 16e for $599 or paying just $200 more to get a normal iPhone 16 instead? Well, today I think the best thing we can do is a review of specs of doing the iPhone 16 versus the iPhone 16e. And with that, let's get started. So what we have here then on the left is the iPhone 16 and on the right we have the iPhone 16e for this comparison that we're going to do today. And let's get started then with the display type. So both of these iPhones have practically got the same type of screen inside of them, except for I would say the iPhone 16 has a little bit of better technology, as you'll see in just a second. But like I said, they both have OLED XDR screens inside of them. But the biggest difference, what you probably notice here in these pictures, is obviously with the iPhone 16, we do get Dynamic Island, and you get all the features with Dynamic Island if you're a big fan of that or seen that. Whereas the iPhone 16e doesn't get this whatsoever. There is no Dynamic Island. We're back to the good old-fashioned notch that we've had ever since, say, the iPhone 10 back in 2017, whenever that was. So that is definitely something to consider right away. But moving over to the actual screen size, they're identical in both of them. So the iPhone 16 has a 6.1-inch display, and so does the 16e. And the actual sort of size of the phones are around about the same in dimensions, there and thereabout. But what this means, though, for the actual screen resolutions, is that we do have slightly few different changes here. We have actually with the iPhone 16 a resolution of 2556 by 1179, whereas the iPhone 16e has a 2532 by 1170. That's because the iPhone 16 does have a newer OLED XDR display. And just in case you want to know what that means in pixels per inch, this means that the iPhone 16 has 460 pixels per inch, and then the iPhone 16e has 458 pixels per inch PPI. Now, Apple's website weirdly says the 16e has 460 pixels per inch, but I think they've just rounded this up, because if you do the maths on the previous screen with the resolution, you'll find out it's actually 458. But moving on from that though, for the actual display refresh rate, both of these have got a 60 Hz display inside of it. I was not expecting the 16e to get say a 90 Hz or 120 Hz ProMotion because the iPhone 16 doesn't have this. So yes, makes complete sense that both of them are only standard at 60 Hz. But what does make a big difference is the screen brightness. Now the iPhone 16, like I said, it has that newer OLED XDR display, and it can actually go up to 2000 nits, where the iPhone 16 can only go up to 1200 nits HDR. It's both HDR for both of these. But I would be saying straight away that even getting that almost double the amount of brightness is definitely a big perk here for the iPhone 16 over the 16e. So think about in that $200 price increase to actually go over that over the new 16e model. And then moving over to the processor and the CPU, well, they actually have both got an A18, but they are slightly different. We do have the same 6-core CPU in both of these machines, but if you're a person who likes to play games or if you're doing anything that's a little bit graphics intensive, do take note that the normal iPhone 16 has a 5-core GPU and a 16-core neural engine, whereas the iPhone 16e has got that 6-core CPU. But look, comparing, it has a 4-core GPU. It's one less core, and it also does have that 16-core neural engine too. But like I said, just be aware of that. But what I would be saying is with having that one less GPU core, this might actually help slightly along with that battery life for the iPhone 16e that we'll get onto in a moment. But for RAM amount, we actually have got 8 GB of RAM inside both of these machines, on both of these phones, so it's identical there. There's no differences whatsoever. And then the same for storage. Apple are offering the exact same sort of storage tiers for the 16 and the 16e. So it's 128 gigabytes, 256 gigabytes, and 512 gigabytes for both of them. Obviously, there's no expansional sort of storage. There never has been on an iPhone. So yeah, no differences there. But then for the operating system, both of them can run iOS 18. And this means that they're probably going to get, say, operating system updates for the next sort of 6 to 7 years. So this is exactly the same, which is really, really good news to hear for both of them. But then let's move over to the battery life. Now this is where things get quite interesting. The iPhone 16 does fall behind here with a 22-hour battery life compared to the 26-hour battery life on the iPhone 16. How Apple have benchmarked this is watching a video that's locally stored on the actual phone, so it's not being streamed over the internet or anything like that. And obviously they've got the same brightness setup, same sound setup, things like this. But the 16E is ahead, and I think one of the big advantages to this is because of the new C1 chip inside of the 16E. This is Apple's first communication chip or cellular chip that they have now, what allows them to do 5G signal and things like this. So this is definitely helping out here with battery life. And in fact, actually, if we have a look at the actual battery sizes, the iPhone 16 actually has a larger battery inside, 3,561 milliamps compared to the iPhone 16e's 3,279 milliamp. But yet we're getting better battery life with the 16E. So this is quite extraordinary that Apple have actually done this. Then for the wired and wireless charging, this is where we got some big differences again. We do have USB-C charging on both of them, but with the 16 we get up to 45 watts wireless charging, and then with the MagSafe wireless charging, if you get the brand new MagSafe official one from Apple, you can actually charge up to 25 watts wireless charging with the 16. But with the 16E, you only get up to 27 watts with a USB-C cable, and then you only get wireless 15 watts with no MagSafe whatsoever. Straight away, I'd be thinking I'm a big fan of MagSafe, so, you know, this would be helping me out to go towards an iPhone 16 to pay out for one of these instead over the 16E. But then moving over to the weight of these phones, they are practically identical. The iPhone 16 weighs 3 grams more. Now obviously the 16 does have that extra camera inside of it too, whereas the 16E has one less camera. But I think there's been some great work here what Apple have done with the 16 to make this so lightweight that really with the 3 grams difference, you're really not going to notice the difference if you held both these phones in your hands. For water resistance, both of them are identical again. They're both IP68, so this means you can go into or drop your phone into clear water up to 6 meters and then rescue it out within 30 minutes and you'll be absolutely fine. Obviously, if you drop into sea water or something like this, obviously it's going to be a very different result what you're going to get. For ports wise, we have charging ports of USB-C on both of them. And both of them have USB 2.0 because obviously we're using that A18 chip inside of it. This is what it's compatible with. So don't expect to use fast storage kind of speeds. Mainly this port is just good for just charging. That's the main thing I'd be saying with that. But then for stereo speakers, both of these phones have got that, and they both have 2x speakers inside of them, so this is really good to see. And both of them are fully compatible with Apple Intelligence. So this means that all the Apple Intelligence goodies that are going to be coming out over the next few years, they're going to be compatible with them, and also the current ones that exist right now for both phones. For Bluetooth technology, the iPhone 16 actually has Bluetooth 5.3, whereas the iPhone 16e has Bluetooth 5.32, so no difference there. But for Wi-Fi, the iPhone 16 has Wi-Fi 7, and the iPhone 16e has old Wi-Fi 6. We're actually 2 generations ahead here with Wi-Fi in the iPhone 16. To me, that's another good thing to say to spend $200 more to actually get that. And then something else what I would be saying is great to have is the rear cameras, the differences that we got here. Both of them do have the same 48 megapixel wide camera inside them, and this is really, really great. You could do that cropping effect up to 2x zoom. We're getting some great detail, and you can push up the digital zoom to 10 times on both these phones. But the main thing is what you are getting with the iPhone 16 is that you're getting that 12 megapixel ultra wide, and the amount of times I use an ultra wide is quite a lot, and I definitely think this is something to definitely consider to actually have, again, in that $200 sort of price mark more to pay out for, to actually have this over the single lens in the iPhone 16e. For selfie cameras though, what we've actually got inside of this is that we've actually got a 12 megapixel camera. Now what I would be saying is the iPhone 16 actually has a newer 12 megapixel camera, what got introduced with the iPhone 14 Pro and the 14 Pro Max. It's been the same ever since, but the iPhone 16 has the old 12 megapixel camera, what we've had had ever since the iPhone 12. That was in the 12, that was in the 13, and then obviously that was also in the 14 normal and the 14 Plus. So this is an older camera in the front, what you've got to be aware of. But then for the prices then, both of them have a base model of 128 gigabytes inside, but the iPhone 16, like I said, starts at $799 US, whereas the 16e starts at $599 US. So a $200 price difference with this. But with this then, what iPhone model will you be buying? So as you can guess from this, if I had an extra $200, I would be buying the iPhone 16 with all those extra features, dynamic island, the extra camera on the bottom. I've not even talked about colors, like this teal color, I absolutely love, and there's that aquamarine color too. We only get black and white on the the SE. We don't even have the product red on the 16e. So yeah, that is a bit disappointing. Now, personally, I think Apple have strategized that they put the actual 16 at $599 US because it's like what I'm doing here in this video. It's to make you go, well, for just $200 more, I could get an iPhone 16 and I could get all these extra features. And I said this before that Apple do this quite a lot, like say with the MacBook Pros right now. You could get, say, the M4 MacBook Pro at $1,600, and that has 16 gigabytes of RAM in it, but you could upgrade it for $200 more to 24 gigabytes of RAM, so that's $1,800. But then if you spent $200 more again, you could get the M4 Pro MacBook Pro with 24 gigabytes of RAM inside of that, and you've got a whole next generation CPU inside of it. Do you see what Apple are doing here? It's kind of like a strategy that it's making you kind of upsell to the next model. And I personally think this is why, the iPhone 16e sits where it is at $599 US. I think it probably might not sell as well because Apple are trying to probably force you to push you more towards getting an iPhone 16. But that is my opinion there. What do you think on that opinion? Do you agree with me? Or do you think that obviously the $599 US price is absolutely correct and Apple are not trying to persuade you to get something higher? Well, let me know in the comments below. And with that as well, guys, it's time to wrap up this video too. So if you have enjoyed watching it, please do press the like button. Also, if you want to hear the latest Apple news, reviews and comparisons like we've done today, make sure you subscribe to the channel and hit that notification bell. Until next time, guys, I'll see you really soon. Take care. Bye bye.